Hey folks, how are we doing? Welcome back to the Bocce Piles channel. So we're going to be continuing to roll with everyone's favorite Rhinos content. But I do promise other things are coming down the pipeline soon as we get back into the swing of playing some Legacy. Okay. So lately, the lists that are posting results on the old MTG Goldfish are pretty straightforward. 8 Spirit Guides, 2 Murktide Regents in the main, no Uros. You know, we saw how that went last week. And then I guess the sideboard, people are playing these 2 Brotherhood's End and the Fury. So the main deck I like a whole bunch. I guess it took me a little bit to sort of figure it out or understand it. Pre-MH3, like 7 Spirit Guides was pretty standard. I was dinking around with 6. And then you'd play like some main deck Endurance. That was pretty normal. I guess Delver was on top, whereas Delver is not so clearly on top of the metagame right now. But now I guess I understand. Like playing 8 Spirit Guides in 4 Force of Wills, obviously, gives you a lot of answers for like the dazes in Force of Wills out of Delver. Like Force of Negation is a bad card against Delver. For the most part, although you can obviously protect a violently outbursted Rhinoceri assault on your opponent's turn. That is the one thing that it does, which is okay. But just with the 8 Spirit Guides and the 4 Force of Wills, like just more Spirit Guides end up being more answers basically to the permission that our opponents could have. And so it's really just Force of Will you got to worry about. And we have our own forces to answer the opponent's forces. So, yeah, I guess Endurance seems less important. And I like the whole just throw stuff at the wall. Like, you just dump out your hand and then reload again by cascading again and then, following up with Murktide Regent. You just keep dumping stuff out, wastelanding your opponent, and then dumping more stuff out if it doesn't work the first time, and you just keep beating your opponent down. I think it's a great strategy. So the main deck I really like. Now the sideboard, I think these sideboards are questionable. So Inevitable Betrayal, I mean, I've lamented the blue-black Reanimator matchup and the foibles of boarding out your Rhinos to bring in the Betrayal. But basically, it's easy for the opponent to board out their reanimation package. So it's questionable. And then also like Brotherhood's End, getting to double red is often precarious, and I don't know if this card is needed. And then Fury, I think, is just worse than Dismember. So with all that in mind, this is the crazy build we're going to try today. So Uro didn't work out, but it is the return of the mighty Klothys in the sideboard. And so the plan against Reanimator, hang on while I draw it up, is going to look like this. So we're going to board out the Fire and Ices, a Wasteland, a Violent Outburst, and some Force of Negations, and bring in Dismember, Endurance, and the mighty Klothys. And so, obviously, Klothys will help contain the opponent's graveyards and shrink Barrogoyfs, and also we can remove Shardless Agent from our own graveyard and help keep Barrogoyf within range. This is something we want to try out here. I mean, Inevitable Betrayal doesn't do anything anyway, so we might as well give it a shot. We have a lot of graveyard. Like, we're getting rid of Inevitable Betrayal, but this is more ways to interact with the graveyard. So it doesn't stop, the instant speed in Tomb, but we do have Endurance, and we're going to have forces to answer that kind of thing. And I think Dismember is pretty darn clutch. It can take down a not Golgari, Grave Troll, the Troll of Khazad-dûm, that's the one. Yeah, Dismember I think is pretty darn clutch, and obviously it can take down Barrogoyf too. So yeah, that is the plan. So I do have this solitary Mindbreak Trap. Maybe what I'll do is I'll just make the Mindbreak Trap into the single Inevitable Betrayal, and then we'd be boarding out 1 Rhino for 1 Inevitable Betrayal. And maybe that'll put our opponents in an awkward spot. I do think there's a lot of combo and in these leagues, a lot of Storm and whatnot. So I don't know. I'd love to be playing 2 copies of Mindbreak Trap. But maybe 2 copies of Klothys is excessive. All right, so we could put like a Mindbreak Trap in and just play 1 copy of Klothys. I mean, I like to play 2 copies of sideboard cards so that, you know, I actually see it from time to time. But I mean, probably it's a little ambitious playing the two copies of Klothys. So yeah, here we go. We have some fun ofs in the sideboard. Cool. All right, let's do it. Okay, so we're gonna start round 1 on the draw. We have a force effect and a cascader. So this looks crazily good. I mean, we're just missing a spirit guide, but I'm definitely gonna keep. Opponent is on a mulligan to 6 here. All right, here we go. All right, it's the old Scalding Tarn and pass from the opponent here. A tropical island. So I could play the Wooded Foothills and play around Wasteland a bit here. I think it's probably best just to get the Hedge Maze in. A Spirit Guide, that's probably good here. So I'm going to put that on top. So we can either play around days in 2 turns or just go off next turn. Polluted Delta. So I wonder if this is a Storm opponent now. Maybe they're holding up Stifle. But we get to go off on their turn, which is great. So they're not doing anything. If they don't want to do anything, I'm okay playing around days here or seeing what they're up to before I commit to anything. A basic island and a ponder. Okay. And another polluted delta. So I think this indicates that they're not on Delver. You would be thinking they'd be playing some kind of threat here. And I got to be thinking Storm. I mean, it could be Show and Tell is the other thing. And that is a deck that plays days. So do I want to just jam here? I could just get the Thundering Falls. I think I want to jam. They only play 2 dazes in Show and Tell. Typically, although they play Flusterstorm, and that's going to be good against us. At basically any point in the game. I think I will get the Taiga and play this Violent Outburst. There's only 1 Volcanic Island in the deck, and maybe I'll want to get that with Lorien Revealed later. We have a second blue with this Tropical Island. And they haven't played Wasteland yet, so that's why I'm doing it this way. So here's Crashing Footfalls. And it looks like it is in, so the opponent is not playing days. So, that's good. Okay, we're going to see more of what's going on here as they crack their polluted delta. I guess I'm thinking that this is a Storm at this point. But I don't know what they're about to play on their end step here, if anything. It looks like a Storm mana base, but what are we getting here? A Petty Theft. Well, that seems like not Storm. So maybe it's just Grixis control then. And that being the case, do I want to force this Petty Theft? I kind of would like to ice their swamp on their turn. So I could like force this pitching Brazen Borrower. I guess if they untap and play Barrowglyph, it's pretty bad news, but they probably don't have many copies of those. And then if I do force here, it's going to be a lot easier to play Murktide Regent is the thing. So maybe I force here, and then if they like tap out for Barrowglyph, we just ice that and attack. But yeah, I'll play. Okay, well, force is a great draw. So we'll attack. And then we'll play a Murktide Regent. Already looking better than Uro here. Just the way this is going to come down and immediately apply pressure. A nice 6/6. The opponent concedes. Cool. So I definitely want to bring in Mystical Dispute. And I think I'll cut Fire and Ice and a Wasteland. The Klothys and Endurances, those are cards that could be played. I'm not sure how good against this particular build Force of Negation is. I mean, they probably do play some number of like Murktide Regents. Endurance shuffling in, you know, our Crashing Footfalls against the control deck in a grindy game is never bad. Like maybe Fire and Ice just isn't that great. And we'll have a lot of threats here. And yeah, I think this looks okay. Yeah, let's try this. All right, well, here we have Crashing Footfalls into Violent Outburst. I think I have to keep a hand like this. It's a little... I would like to just turn one... Let's see, a Thoughtseize here. Cool. Well, our hand is pretty redundant. So if they take the Violent Outburst, we can just suspend the Rhinos. But this does further cement the idea that it's Grixis control. And this Wasteland is looking good. So what I'll probably do here is suspend the Crashing Footfalls off the Elvish Spirit Guide and Wasteland them. Yeah, Wasteland's looking mighty good. Yeah, Wasteland, the combination of Wasteland and suspending Crashing Footfalls is usually pretty bonkers. So we're passing the turn back here. All right, the opponent is cracking Polluted Delta. They don't know about our second Wasteland. They are pondering, and they did get a Wastelandable target here. So, yeah, maybe just boarding out Wasteland was wrong. I mean, these 3-color control decks, you know, Jeskai, and Grixis, they play a lot of basic lands, but if you do Wasteland them, it's usually crazily good. They did choose not to shuffle there, but we're not doing much else anyway. So Wastelanding them, pretty easy decision. All right, they are going to Scalding Tarn and pass. Our Rhinos tick down to 2. There's a Lorien Revealed. So I anticipate getting a Hedge Maze on our opponent's end step here. They are cracking their Scalding Tarn for an Undercity Sewer, and they keep. All right, they are cracking their Bloodstained Mire. I wonder if they have a 2-mana play. A Baleful Strix. So I did board out my Fire and Ices. I'm not sure how many copies of Baleful Strix they play. But yeah, we'll definitely get a Hedge Maze here since we have the red mana from the Simian Spirit Guide. An Endurance. That is some kind of threat. Although a Cascader would be better. I don't think Endurance is that great here. I think I'll just put that in the graveyard. And they can have their Strix. If we do just draw like a land, that'll get us closer to Lorien Revealed. Okay, another Endurance. That kind of makes me want to not just Lorien Revealed up the Thundering Falls here, but I think I'm just going to have to do it anyway. And we are looking for Wasteland. Well, that's not what I was going to say, but that does seem like a one that I have to keep. Thoughtseize from the opponent. Cool. So, you know, on further reflection, I didn't board out any Spirit Guides in this matchup. And so I probably could have kept in some Spirit Guides. Sorry, boarded some out and kept some Fire and Ices in. The opponent not being on a Daze deck, especially on the draw, I think that would have been smart. So they're probably going to answer our Crashing Footfalls here, but we'll Wasteland them and see what we draw for the turn. It'll be a good time to draw a Shardless Agent, for sure. But I feel like this is about to get forced or something. We do have Spell Pierce mana, and Flusterstorm mana, for that matter. Oh, well, I guess we're just in. But something must be happening over there. And it is a petty theft, I think. Cool. There's the Wasteland that we knew was coming. Cut them off of blue mana. And then we're looking at setting up some Spirit Guide beatdown next turn. I always forget the Rhino tokens don't have haste off the... I guess they never have haste under any circumstance, but I did try to click on my Rhino token to attack there. All right, the opponent is just probably not attacking here. Yep. So I guess I'll trade my Rhino for their Baleful Strix here. Now I am awfully close to Lorien Revealed happening, which makes me want to not hardcast the Spirit Guide, but probably just getting more bodies on board is fine. I guess I should have thought about petty thefting the Baleful Strix because they don't have the blue mana, but if they get the blue mana, that's like a really bad play. But they're at 8 life. We can add this Brazen Borrower to the board next turn. I'm sure we'll draw more mana sources for this Lorien Revealed eventually. Or maybe if we draw like an Endurance, this can get the Tropical Island. All right, well, the opponent kept a Lightning Bolt in against us. I kind of feel bad that I gave them a target for that. Lightning Bolt's really bad against us. Yep. A Misty Rainforest, cool. Yeah, so we could be Lorien Revealing here and having our opponent do nothing, but that's the way it goes sometimes. The thing is, the Lorien Revealed does just eat it to Pyroblast, and I feel like Pyroblasting is something our opponent probably has. And with that in mind, maybe I'll deploy the Brazen Borrower here and see if this eats a Pyroblast. They are at a low life total, so they kind of have to worry about this. Force of Negation, that's probably a pretty good one from this spot. That's a good counter spell for anything that might happen here. And they are just going down to 7. So while the Simian Spirit Guide ate the Lightning Bolt, we are getting through. And this Force of Negation is probably going to be crushing, I would expect at some point. Murktide Regent, well, that is a good one. So we will attack with a Brazen Borrower. And yeah, Murktide Regent, it's going to be a backbreaker here, I would expect. I think it's fine to just exile all the instants and not worry about having to shuffle. Did I get Crashing Footfalls? Okay. So I guess it's just a little weird getting used to the client changes, but at least Magic Online is not lagging. Okay, well, there's a Force of Will from the opponent, and that's good for them, but they are at 3 life now, and so one more swing from the Brazen Borrower will do it, and we have a Force of Negation for whatever is about to happen here. Cool. All right, we are on the play for round 2. And yeah, this hand seems fine. We got some Force of Wills, or a Force of Will, and then Thundering Falls to find more mana sources. And Ice could buy some time as well if we don't get Wastelanded. So plenty to like here. All right, we have another opponent on a mulligan to 6. Here's the Thundering Falls, and I'll pretty much take any land here. But Wasteland is, of course, a powerful card. A basic mountain from the opponent and a pass. Cool. I think we're pretty well set up here. Like, probably this ice on their basic mountain is going to be effective. And then we'll start crashing in. And we have Force of Will to buy time if something bad happens. So it's all looking pretty good, I think. Yeah, so they are a mono red player. The Shatter Skull confirms it. So I guess what I'll do here is get my basic forest. And that way if we get mooned... You know, actually, I probably should have wastelanded them and then played this Spirit Guide off of the Shardless Agent off of a Spirit Guide. I should have considered that option. But we can wasteland them next turn. It's probably just force whatever they do. And then wasteland them and Shardless Agent again next turn. So that should be fine. So the opponent has the Ancient Tomb. And here's a Fable, the Mirror Breaker. So this card, like, really doesn't matter. I think I'm just going to let it go. Here's a Fury. I think I'm okay. We can reload anyway, so I'm just going to not worry about it. Okay, Petty Theft is a pretty good one. So I think the plan here is to attack and wasteland the Ancient Tomb. I guess I'll attack first. I'm sure they're not going to trade. I would like to Petty Theft this Shaman token. And if they elect to block, I mean, that works for me. Looks like it's not going to happen, though. Yeah, so I think we need to wasteland the Ancient Tomb. And then I think I'll just Petty Theft the Shaman on their upkeep here. And it's a little sad that we're not deploying more Rhinos. But we still have Force of Will for whatever the thing is, and we have a good clock going on here. All right, so they discard some stuff to the Fable. They have a City of Traders. Here's the Pyroglyph. Yeah, we're going to want to force this. Okay, cool, we did it. So these post-board games revolve heavily around Chalice of the Void. Fire and Ice is a little questionable in this matchup. Although picking off Shaman tokens is pretty handy. But yeah, Wasteland probably not the most important. I guess I'll board out a Brazen Borrower and keep 2 Fire and Ices in. See, I just feel a little silly boarding out Fire and Ice for Dismember, and it makes me wonder if the Dismember should be in the main deck. Because they're sort of doing the similar thing. But these are blue cards, and we are playing 8 forces, so Fire and Ice is pretty important there. But anyway, like, you could trim on Force of Negations too, because we are bringing in like Force of Vigors, but they do play like the One Ring, so Force of Negation probably pretty important. All right. All right, so we only have a Simian Spirit Guide here for mana, so we will have to take the mulligan this time. So this hand has a Force of Negation and not much else going on, although Force of Negation's not terrible. It's a pretty lackluster hand, to be honest. It's probably not a winner. Okay. So this has things that I want, but I have to put back a bunch of cards. 2 of them. So I probably can't keep both of these forces. So which one do I want to let go of? A Force of Vigor is better against Chalice because they have like 2 Chalices. Well, if you force the first Chalice, they can just play the second Chalice. And then, so anyway, I think Force of Vigor is probably the one that I want. And I guess I'll put back a Thundering Falls, a Force of Negation. We'll try that. All right, it's the old Shatter Skull pass from the opponent. All right, Force of Will, that's a good draw. A Blood Sun from the opponent. So we can sort of ignore this. Well, I'll get the Hedge Maze to start. I do like Blood Sun in this deck. The deck our opponent's playing. Okay, Spirit Guide is a good one for sure. So now we can start cascading, which is cool. So we'll do it off the Violent Outburst and save the Shardless Agent to pitch to Force of Will. I mean, it's a little unfortunate. You'd want the 2-turn clock, but it's just not an option here. So they can have the Fable, and maybe we'll just Force of Vigor, the Fable plus the Blood Sun. And maybe we can draw another blue card here. But I guess I need to do the Force of Vigoring now, because otherwise they're going to get the Fable trigger on. No, it happens in their draw step, so we can Force of Vigor on their upkeep. That's good to know. Yeah, and after your draw step. Okay, cool. Yes, it is good to know the rules. Well, we'll start with an attack. I sure would just kind of like to add 10 power to the board and see what my opponent can do about it. But the One Ring is a pretty good one for my opponent. Probably our 8 power here is good enough, and I'll just stick with a plan. I don't know, it's pretty tempting just to add to the board. Because even if they get the One Ring down, eventually I'm going to get a turn. Alright, I think I am just going to do this. Well, the getting is good. Alright, so putting some Crashing Footfalls on the stack. And we have a whole bunch of power on board here. Alright, so the opponent discards a Pyroblast and a Broadside Bombardier. So they are up to 6 mana. Hardcast a Fury. Well, that's not super scary. Maybe they'll have like another Fury. They do have another Fury. So that's pretty good for them. Okay. Well, we chewed up a bunch of cards in their hand. Nonetheless here. So they get a treasure token. We get to trade with a shaman. So I guess they're probably hoping to start copying Fury with a Fable, but that doesn't happen for a couple turns. So we get in here. Okay, so we're going to be doing some trades. I could add Elvish Spirit Guide to the board, but I guess I am just going to Force of Vigor on their upkeep here. And I guess I'll just take out the Blood Sun. They're not really wanting for mana, so taking out the Clue token doesn't seem that great either. Well, they have their third Fury, so that is good for them. They pass it back. We draw a Wasteland. Do I want to Wasteland them off of a City of Traders? I guess so. The thing is, we could just try to... Yeah, I don't think Wastelanding them actually matters because they can play anything. And I guess we're missing the chance to hard cast Force of Will on something. A Bombardier. So this is going to be this is pretty damaging. We take 8, and then they can fling for 7. So we'll need something good right here. The One Ring. Well, that's a good one for them. Yeah, so even Dismember here. I guess we could stay alive for 1 turn if we Dismember the broadside. We'll be at 7. I guess I clicked through my turn, but I drew Force of Negation anyway. Cool. All right, well, we're just dead then. They can attack for a whole bunch here. 8, and then fling either the Fury or the One Ring, so that's cool. Well, that one got away from us. Maybe I should have just Force of Vigored instead of adding power to the board. I mean, they sure had all their Furies, which isn't super likely, so I don't know. That was kind of a tough call. But I guess when we didn't Force of Vigor the Blood Sun, it did let them play like another City of Traders, and I think that was really good for them. Anyway, we're on to the next one here. So do I want to change my plan? I think Wasteland does seem crazily good against them. Maybe Fire and Ice isn't that important. And I'll bring the Petty Theft back in. Like bouncing their Shaman token or anything else that's in the way. Pretty good. All right, we'll try this. Hopefully we can just kill them quickly. All right, I think that this qualifies. It's a little dicey, but we can get the island, bounce their Chalice of the Void, and start playing Shardless Agents. Okay, so the opponent's mulligan to 6. I'll play this Wasteland and pass. Okay, it looks like the opponent is just going to basic mountain and pass it back. So I'll use this opportunity to get my island. I wonder if I should get Tropical Island here. The thing is, I have to use my Elvish Spirit Guide to play the Shardless Agent anyway. So we're going to need another green source, because Simian Spirit Guide's not going to give me the other mana I need here. So I think it is the basic island. Okay, well, that's good. Cool. So yeah, we'll just Shardless Agent here for a whole bunch. Well, 10 power to be specific. All right, we're putting Crashing Footfalls on the stack, and it's in. Cool. All right, so we pass into the opponent's turn. They play an Ancient Tomb, and it's a Magus of the Moon. Cool. Well, that's not very threatening. And there's a Fury. I mean, this kind of trade is usually fine. So they take out a Rhino. That's fine. If they block with their Magus of the Moon, that seems crazily good for us. But they don't. So I don't think I'm going to be petty thefting their Ancient Tomb. Sorry, their Magus of the Moon, and then Wastelanding them. Although it sure is a thing that I could do. Is that a play I want to make? Alternatively, we could add to the board with Simian Spirit Guide. They're going to only have 3 mana next turn anyway. I bounce the Magus and Wasteland them. I think maybe I like this play. And then force anything they do that's good, hopefully. All right, so they're just redeploying the Magus of the Moon. Makes sense. We get in for 6. They don't block. They still only have 3 mana here. Well, they could have Chromox or Simian Spirit Guide, but they didn't play like a Fable pre-combat, so that's good news. Although, all right, well, they really need to have an answer here for my Force, like a Pyroblast, which they only have one card. All right, cool, we did it. That was they're a scary deck. I like the Blood Sun build. Okay, so this hand has the mana we need. It'll be turn 1, Lorien Revealed for like Tropical Island, and then we start Violent Outbursting. So I'm gonna keep. And also we have like Force of Will and blue cards and this Fire and Ice. So the opponent didn't do anything on their first main. I'm sure they're about to do something. And they do. A Tundra Gamer. Cool. Well, if I draw a land here, I might just Wasteland them. And I do. They did choose not to shuffle. So I don't know if we're up against like Jeskai control or if we're up against Dreadnoughts. If it's like Dreadnoughts, we'll want the mana. I guess I'm just going to play the Misty and pass. The Dreadnought matchup's a little bit rough. Jeskai control is usually pretty good. Tropical Island, so it's something else. Okay, so it's like a breakfast, Nadu type thing. Cool. So they have a Shuko. Okay. So what do I want to do here? I want to Wasteland them off Tropical Island. So I think I'll get the Hedge Maze. Another Shardless Agent. It's not terrible, but is it good? I think it's okay. It's a blue card. So I think the white mana is better than the green mana. Stops them from nomads and coring. Shuko is a little slow and susceptible to like fire and ice. Brainstorm, sure. A Savannah. All right, I'm gonna cycle the Lorien Revealed here. We'll get Volcanic Island. Crashing Footfalls. Not the best draw. So I guess I'm gonna hold up Violent Outburst here is my plan. I would like to suspend Crashing Footfalls. But they're certainly threatening a Nadu here. Okay, so they're not about to Nadu immediately. So I guess I'll take the opportunity to get my Violent Outburst on. And if they force our Crashing Footfalls, I honestly don't mind. We have plenty more of those. And we can save Force of Will for Nadu. It might be the case that that Wasteland wasn't very good, as I wish I had more mana right now. We weren't really... Wasteland is much better after Crashing Footfalls have happened. But we are in with our Rhinos. So the opponent's Brainstorm resolves. There's a Prismatic Ending on a Rhino. That's cool. And there's a Hedge Maze. Okay. And they do get to put this Narcomoeba into play, so that's pretty cool for them. But they don't equip it with their Shuko, but I suppose it really does not matter. A Simian Spirit Guide. So what do I want to do here? Maybe I'll just suspend the Crashing Footfalls and hold up Fire and Ice. I'd like to play Shardless Agent. That would put the most pressure on the opponent. But, like, if they just play a Cephalid Illusionist, we're in a rough spot. So there's the Nadu. Here's the Force. Okay, our Force resolved. That's good news. They still don't equip their Narcomoeba with Shuko. That's funny. The Rhinos are on 3. Oh, here's a Murktide Regent. So it's kind of a tough decision here about adding to the board with Murktide Regent or just Shardless Agent or holding up Fire and Ice. I mean, this Fire and Ice is not great as a control card. They're dead next turn. I think we'll just have to try to put them on dead next turn, but I feel like they're going to play Nadu. And so I could ice them on the upkeep, and that gives us another turn to draw Wasteland or Force. The thing about icing them is they could still just play Cephalid Illusionist. So I don't know. This is a tricky spot, and I think I'm just going to have to... I think putting them on dead next turn must be the highest percentage play. Like, we just forced the Nadu. So I think just taking what's in front of me is probably the smartest approach here. Okay. The opponent seemed to have tanked a bit, but maybe they just went away to make a sandwich. But here's a Crashing Footfalls. It's in. So they're pretty dead next turn. But, I mean, maybe if they Nadu, we can still win somehow. Like, maybe they have like a weak Nadu. But what do we got here? Okay, they're Prismatic Ending a Rhino. I like how this is starting. Seems to be a good sign for us. But now they're cracking the Strand. Okay. All right, cool. We're just trading some resources here. A 2-mana play. Did they save the Cephalid Illusionist for last? Okay, it's just an Archamoeba. Cool. And here's the Shuko equip at long last. So here, Violent Outburst. I think here I just have to hold up the Fire and Ice, but they don't block. So they're dead next turn, so I am just going to hold up Fire and Ice and hope that it's not Nadu that happens. I can't ice them off the Nadu. So let's see what it is. If they do play Nadu, what I can do is respond by firing both their Narcomoebas, and then they get way less Nadu triggers. So that would be cool. It looks like it ain't happening, though. So I think I'll fire my opponent right now. That's probably the best play. And that makes my Shardless Agent lethal or trample or, Violent Outburst if I draw a mana source. All right, the opponent concedes. Cool. So Blood Moon, Dismember, and Mystical Dispute looking like good cards here. So I think Brazen Borrower is an easy cut. Yeah, it's pretty... Doesn't really stop any of their combo components very effectively. Now the thing is they probably have some Teferis post-board. And so do I want something like Murktide Regent? But we do have a bunch of answers to Teferi. Maybe... I think I'm just going to cut a couple Force of Negations. These can answer... Well, if they're going off with, like, Thassa's Oracle, you could counter the Dread Return. I think they probably are a Daze deck, especially looking at their mana base, the way it's all duels. They probably are in the market to Daze some things. So anyway, that means I don't want to cut Spirit Guides. And I think they're an Urza Saga deck. I don't really want to cut Wasteland. Maybe we can just make do without Murktide Regent, and we'll just try not to eat it to Teferi. We do have a lot of counters for Teferi. And the thing is, just force... There's a good chance we'll be wanting to do stuff on the opponent's turn. The opponent mulliganed to 6 here. We do have the old Crashing Footfalls. Follow up with Wasteland, which is pretty good. Anyway, just, Fire and Ice backed up by Force of Negation on the opponent's turn. I could see being good in a lot of spots. All right, the opponent's kicking it off with Hedge Maze. That'll make it unlikely that they can turn to us. Although the way they're starting with Hedge Maze does show weakness about their mana base, but they did put the card on top. But I wonder if I should Wasteland them anyway. A Blood Moon. Well, maybe they just put a cantrip on top. I mean, this is a sign of weakness here. I think I have to Wasteland them when they start like this. As much as I would like to get this Crashing Footfalls suspended. All right, so there's the Wasteland. A Meticulous Archive. Okay, that's probably what they put on top. And they kept again. Okay, so I'm going to get the basic forest here and suspend a Crashing Footfalls. All right, it's a Ponder from the opponent. And they chose to shuffle. It looks like they found a land. Okay, well, I want to draw like a Force of Will. I wouldn't hate a Spirit Guide to try to beat a Daze. A Wasteland. All right, I think we're just doing that. As long as the opponent seems stuck on mana. The Crashing Footfalls are ticking down, so I think this is a fine play. And if they play an Urza Saga, we'll just deploy the Blood Moon. And this makes them have to get a non-basic land off the Misty, most likely. It also gives us another turn to draw like Force of Will to protect this Blood Moon. Okay, so they are just doing nothing. So the thing about cycling this Lorien Revealed means that if I draw Force of Will, I don't have a blue card to pitch. But I would just end up pitching the Shardless Agent. So I think that's... if Blood Moon's in play, I'm sure I'm winning the game. So I think that would be fine. And we do have the Crashing Footfalls coming. Another Wasteland. Yeah, Wasteland's a pretty good card, huh? So I'm definitely doing this. But yeah, the Wasteland and Crashing Footfalls suspend combination is just stupid good in spots like this. Okay. There's a Cavern of Souls. So that is not a Daze card. A card that can alternate cast Daze. Good news for us. A Shuko. So that means they can go off next turn. And that means I'm going to be trying the Blood Moon here. I'd still love to draw a Force of Will. Another Blood Moon. Well, hopefully this Blood Moon resolves. Alternatively, the opponent could brick on lands. Oh my god, I played the wrong land. Holy smokes, that's a savage misclick. Well, hopefully they don't untap and win. But they're probably just a land short. So that was pretty gnarly. I should have paid attention to what I was doing. Okay, they did not play a land and kill me, so that is good news. And it seems like they probably If they had Force, maybe they would have used it here, but maybe they know that they just need to... Okay, here's the Force of Will. Awesome. Even though this Force of Will doesn't really do anything. They should be trying to draw a land and use Force to protect a combo win, but maybe there's just no chance of that happening for them. That Force is a show of weakness and a good sign for us. Or maybe they have like another Force for this Blood Moon. But either way, it's looking pretty good for us. I mean, I suppose they could rip basic land and then play the Cephalid Illusionist. GG's opponent. Cool, so we're going on to round 4. All right, on the play for round 4. And, man, if we just had one more mana, we'd be Violent Outbursting. But we don't. Cool, so we can suspend Crashing Footfalls and then have Force back up, and then we'll be digging for Surveil lands, so that is all good. I'll throw back the Volcanic Island, and then we'll lead it off on Wooded Foothills and get the basic forest. And we'll crash. So it's a Rogrin Triumph from the opponent. So I don't know what that means. If they are, I mean, I think that probably means Beanstalks and Leyline Bindings, but maybe it just means Jeskai control. All right, Rhinos are taken down. Another Force of Will. All right, I guess you could ice the Triumph on their upkeep. Maybe that's still a good play. I mean, starting with this is kind of a show of weakness. And I probably do just want to force pitching Force rather than forcing twice and emptying my hand. I think I'm just going to go ahead and do the ice here. If they are playing Stoneforge Mystic, we can Petty Theft a Germ Token, which usually buys a bunch of time. And if we find Wasteland, it's like crazily clutch. So they Wasteland our land. That's not exactly a show of strength regarding their mana base if we can rip a Wasteland. But I am off Shardless Agent mana, which is unfortunate in the near term, but it is a blue card to pitch to Force of Will. All right, well, the opponent sure has their mana under them. The Rhinos are coming down soon. All right, cool. So we can force something and then force something else, and we're just a mana shy from being able to deploy more Rhinos, so it's a fine spot. All right, the opponent brainstorms in our end step. Cracks the fetch. All right, what kind of land are we getting here? Okay, so probably it is just Jeskai control. If they want to Wasteland me, it's okay. I will float a red. It's better than getting Teferied, and we can force through this Crashing Footfalls on our turn, most likely. So here we go. We cast Crashing Footfalls. Simian Spirit Guide. And they just don't even try to contest it. So maybe they're going to try to like double swords here. Red and a white. They're seeking the beast. I don't think that's one I want to force, but I guess they are on some kind of... It makes sense with all the wastelands, what's going on here. Standstill and Force of Will. Okay. The Standstill not very good. Good to know about the Force of Will. A Teferi. So I just want to let this go and not let them get value from that Force of Will. So they get to bounce a token and draw a card, but then I get to attack Teferi. And what I'd really love to do is draw any mana source here. Cool. That is any mana source. I can't pump it with Violent Outburst. Okay, I did detect Teferi successfully. Yeah. Okay, now I can Violent Outburst, but I think I will just wait. So here comes a 4-mana play. They're gonna Otawara. Okay. I guess that's cool. So I am gonna be trying to have a Violent Outburst on their end step. All right, Crashing Footfalls is on the stack. So the opponent's forcing. I will pitch the Brazen Borrower here. The force twice plan looking good again with our just our 1 mana here. Cool. Another force. I think I do just want to graveyard this. Because, yeah, the Shardless Agent, it doesn't do anything if I draw that Force of Will. We have power on board, and so like we could be drawing like Fire and Ice, I think, or anyway, I think that's the right play. All right, yeah, you can Wasteland me again. So yeah, pitching Shardless Agent to force once again. Looking good. Another 4-mana play. Is it a Supreme Verdict? They tap their mana successfully for the Supreme Verdict. So it's probably not that because they're undoing it. A Wrath of the Skies. Well, I guess I have to force here. All right, the force on their Wrath is successful. So it looks like we get to get them down to 2. Okay. Well, we're just a fire away from winning this game. Brainstorm. The 4th Wasteland for the opponent. Swords to Plowshares. And a Snapcaster Mage. Okay. All right. Well, it's a questionable spot. We just got to draw some mana and a Fire and Ice. But if the opponent does unlock this Questing Druid, they'll have a pretty good clock in play. Force of Negation, that could prevent something backbreaking. Teferi would be pretty backbreaking. Okay. So if they crack this fetch, they do go down to 1, and then their Force of Will becomes pretty bad, and it's hard to stop our Fire and Ice. So we just got to find Fire and Ice and land here to finish this one off. They are not cracking their Flooded Strand, interestingly enough. I'll just play this Wasteland. I don't know if they want to Wasteland my Wasteland, but this is going to at least preclude the possibility of getting some kind of tapped land on their end step. We'll let Brainstorm resolve. Okay, so their Brainstorm resolves. They're going to get in for 2. We're down to 20. And are we going to crack that Flooded Strand? No, we are not. Okay. Another Wasteland. Okay, it's getting interesting. So I could Wasteland them off of red. I think that's probably worth doing. All right, we're getting some action from the opponent. And it's a Teferi. Yeah, we gotta force the old Teferi. All right, we'll go to 18 here. I guess to be fair, the opponent could always swords their own guy to make life, to gain life. It's something to keep in mind. There's the red mana, though, for the Fire and Ice. Pass it back to the opponent. They sure are holding off on this Questing Druid. I wonder if maybe they forgot about it. we are going to 16. They pass it back. There's a Shardless Agent. They are not doing anything yet. All right, they chip us down to 14. And they pass it back. Okay, we drew a land. So now I am definitely gonna fire this guy out. Even if the Rhinos don't happen, the 2/2 body is certainly worth having in play. All right, put Crashing Footfalls on the stack. All right, so they just have a counter spell. Makes sense. We're in with a Shardless Agent. Now they're cracking their Flooded Strand. And there's the Ketria Triome. So they must just have the Ketria Triome to play the Questing Druid. That explains it. And they're going to Wasteland us off the Tropical Island. Cool. Yes, so we just need to draw that Fire and Ice. We've got the mana to cast it. There's a Flooded Strand they can't use. But here is a Questing Druid. Questing Druid's in. They don't offer a trade with their Snapcaster. Here's a Tropical Island. So they are finally out of Wastelands. Right? I think that's all four. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cool. So I guess I'll Wasteland them off the Triome. So they only have 3 mana here. I don't think that Wasteland's doing much else. We do have a blocker. So there's the Swords to Plowshares on my Shardless Agent. And honestly, I'm glad it's being pointed at my creature rather than their own to get them out of fire range. So we just got to draw the Fire and Ice. But I do see their counterspell deck now, and maybe they'll just have a counterspell for a Fire and Ice. Force of Negation, I cannot cast. It's worth noting the only red source in the deck is the Thundering Falls, but it is still there. Oh, wait. So Volcanic Island and Taiga. And there's the Thundering Falls. So the only red sources are Spirit Guides. Good to know. But we are almost dead. So maybe we're not going to get there. Well, yeah, this is gonna be for all the marbles here. An Elvish Spirit Guide. Cool, so I guess we're playing an Elvish Spirit Guide to chump block for a turn here. Magic Online is struggling with the logistics of this. My poor clock advantage. All right, well, it cost me a whole bunch of clock, but I think that Magic Online figured out what's going on with this Elvish Spirit Guide. But yeah, the opponent just has to have a counterspell here, and then we are donezo. And there it is. Cool. I guess, I mean, the opponent's chewed up a bunch of their clock, and I'm going to make them actually do it here. All right, the opponent untaps, goes in for the attack. All right, and we are dead. Cool, we really got eaten up by Wasteland in that game. And that game was not going anywhere. So I think the only thing I want to do against this Teferi deck is cut some Fire and Ices for some mystical disputes. I think that's fine. Yeah, Klothys, not that impressive against the deck with white removal. Could maybe bring in Endurance over Fire and Ice, but I think 2 Fire and Ices is fine. Yeah, definitely the chance to finish off the opponent like in that last game. Okay, on the play for game 2, and we've got good cards. So let's do it. We'll have the turn 2 of Violent Outburst. So I guess I'm going to be Thundering Fallsing in my opponent's end step. Okay, so the opponent's going to Flooded Strand pass, it looks like. So we will set at the top of our library. An Elvish Spirit Guide. So that does let us outburst into outburst. Maybe that's good. I think I have to keep it. And now Lorien Revealed is a card to pitch to Force of Will. And if they crack this Flooded Strand, I will definitely Violent Outburst in response. Which they do. And I'm going to save the Simian Spirit Guide, as red mana is a bit more of a premium, as we saw towards the end of the last game. Okay, the opponent has a Force of Will. We'll force back. Okay, the Rhinos are in, and the opponent gets to resolve their Strand. All right, they get themselves a Tundra, and they are going to be island cycling here. Okay, not Swords to Plowshares. Good news. Although if they Wrath of the Skies, that's pretty rough, but we do get to follow up with another Violent Outburst. And it looks like they are going to Wrath of the Skies. So they pass it back. We draw a Force of Will. I'm just going to go for this while they're tapped out. I just don't really love the spot against their 4 cards in hand. But if they don't immediately have Wrath of the Skies again, maybe we'll get there. So they play a Flooded Strand. So they're not immediately sweeping the board. That's good news. Maybe we'll draw a blue card. No such luck. So we'll get in for 8. And I'm keeping the island in hand. So they at least have to think about Force of Will. But basically any draw, it doesn't matter if this island hasn't been deployed or not. They go up to 4 mana. They crack a Flooded Strand. Get the basic planes. And it's Jace the Mind Sculptor. So they get to bounce a Rhino probably. That's what's happening here. Yes. Well, at least that's not a great trade for our opponent. Okay. We at least have the blue card now. We get to pick off Jace. Hopefully force the thing they do that is good. They're going for a Teferi. We're definitely going to force that one. Hopefully they don't have Counterspell, but they did hold up double blue. Yep, it's a bad spot, unfortunately. They've probably got this one now. Like Brazen Borrower or Spirit Guide, I suppose, or draws. Well, we did draw a creature that we can play. So, I mean, if we somehow get to connect and kill Teferi next turn, it's not over. So they uptick on Teferi. Okay, so they put Force of Will on top of their deck with Mystic Sanctuary. I don't know what that means. I think I would have gone for the Lorien Revealed or the Wrath of the Skies. But they have a second Teferi. So now they can bounce Elvish Spirit Guide. I guess draw the Force and force Elvish Spirit Guide when it comes back down. Although they can land me off the tropical island. That's probably a good play. That's available to them. Ooh, and a standstill. Cool. My opponent is playing brutally slow, but yeah, I think we can just scoop it up here. Cool. Yeah, I wish I could get a game 3 out of this guy, but it's not happening. But we'll try to pull out the 4-1 in round 5 here. All right, round 5 on the draw. I suppose this hand is a little weak. It's just suspend Crashing Footfalls and then do nothing. I think I have to take a mulligan here. I mean, it's pretty close to being good is the thing. I mean, maybe we suspend Crashing Footfalls, and then we'd have a bunch of draw steps and Surveil lands to try to find anything. I mean, it does technically play Magic. I guess it's a pretty underwhelming hand, so I'm going to mulligan. Ugh. All right, so the opponent mulliganed to 6 also, at least. And, see, I probably should have just kept the opener. So we could keep this hand and pray for a land, and then we're like playing Rhinos on turn 1. I guess so. And then we can Lorien Revealed for a Surveil land if we don't get there. Ponder from the opponent. Cool. All right, so I guess I'm going to cycle Lorien Revealed here. And I guess I'll burn the Elvish Spirit Guide and get the Hedge Maze. This is truly terrible on a mulligan to 5. The thing about the first hand is that at least hands that kind of do anything are hard to put back. And, well, I mean, I guess you don't expect to have terrible mulligans. So I don't know. But that hand did play Magic, the first one. In this one, I mean, against a blue deck, it's going to be pretty rough. A Thoughtseize. All right. Well, I expect they'll take Simian's Spirit Guide. But if they do, it does mean that maybe we'll draw mana and get to do Violent Outburst things. We do have a Wasteland coming. So Petty Theft is available to us. The Sewers. So they kept. All right, well, we are in. So should I just do this now? Probably, I suppose. I mean, they typically don't play Force of Negation. It's pretty obvious what's coming. So we put Crashing Footfalls on the stack. Well, they do let us have the Rhino tokens. So we'll see what they can cobble together on their turn. We might be getting hit by a Petty Theft. We sure are. Into Fatal Push. Okay. Another Violent Outburst. I think at this point I'll start Violent Outbursting on their upkeep. So here it is. If I somehow win this game after all my belly aching, that will be quite the feat. So here's a Force of Will. So they're going to be down to 1 card, but then they go up to 2 on their draw step. And then they just pass through their turn. So that's interesting. So are they going to play Brazen Borrower in the end step? They are. So I am going to respond with a Violent Outburst and be wastelanding them off the Undercity Sewer. Of course, if they want to daze me, you know, we'll pay for daze. Another Force. Wow. Now I need to think about if I still want to wasteland them. Is 2 versus 3 a big deal? I guess. I'm just going to let it go. Like if they barrel goish me here, I can Petty Theft it and then wasteland them to try to keep them off of it. But if I draw a lot of things, I might want the mana. And now that they've drawn another land, I'm kind of happy with that decision. So we're probably going to put my Brazen Borrower in front of their Brazen Borrower on their turn. But we're getting close to Lorien Revealed mana here. Unfortunately, they countered all our Crashing Footfalls. Maybe what I want to do is actually let them attack. And then just attack with my own Brazen Borrower because I'm winning the race. So I think I'm going to try that. We're in. That's a good draw. I still don't really see the use in wastelanding them here. So I shan't. Yeah, I mean, they can't hardcast Force of Will. But I will play a giant Murktide Regent. So it's full size. So did they draw another Petty Theft? Entomb. Okay. So I am going to wasteland them here and minimize their chances to ponder into a reanimation spell. Yeah, we just got to fade like reanimate for a turn here. Okay, they drew Wasteland. That's really good for us. They take us off red. So we at least get to put them down to 8, and reanimate's no longer a draw. Force of Negation. If only I had a blue card. I guess they... Wow, they blocked Brazen Borrower. If they had blocked Murktide Regent, I guess they wanted Brazen Borrower dead. Okay, here's Brainstorm. So did they get there on the animate dead? We could still draw like Ice or Petty Theft. But I guess they wanted us not to have two attackers. It looks like they have the animate dead. Okay, they're brainstorming. So that's why we wastelanded them. And I believe we're in the clear now. Unless they have some kind of 1-mana way. Because they can only have 1 card to kill our Murktide Regent with. Cool, Murktide Regent. I can't believe I won that game after my belly aching. That's wild. Yep. That was like a terrible, terrible hand. I think I'm not bringing in the mystical disputes is what I worked out. But I will bring in the 1 Inevitable Betrayal. All right, so I think that this is what I worked out in the intro. So just 1 Inevitable Betrayal to keep them honest. We do want to dismember their Dothy Voidwalkers and whatnot. And, yeah. I definitely want all my spirit guides. Cool, let's do it. Well, we have another depressing hand on the draw. So we could keep this in Spirit Guide for Hedge Maze. Do I want to do that? I absolutely hate mulliganing, and this hand's awfully close. Like, mulliganing to 6 is kind of the same. I think I'm just going to keep... If we do draw land, it's crazily good. And then if we don't, well, this is basically like a mulligan to 6 anyway. We did not. Cool. So I guess I'll exile this... the Elvish Spirit Guide and get the Hedge Maze. Here's the Hedge Maze. Put it into play. Let's try to imagine some land if you're watching at home. They're going to respond here with an Entomb. A Brainstorm. Okay, well, they can have a Brainstorm. I think you might as well take the information from the Surveil if you're my opponent before resolving Brainstorm, but it's pretty small potatoes. Okay, that is not a land. We'll bottom the Brazen Borrower. Or graveyard it. Here's a Ponder. I wonder if they're low on mana, and that's why they brainstormed the way they did, but I don't think I can really afford to fawn this Ponder in any case. I did draw both Dismembers. It was a pretty rough top deck. The old 1 in like 53 chance of that happening. To the Undercity Sewer. Cool. All right. Well, there's a mana source. So we are playing Magic the Gathering at this point. We'll grab the Thundering Falls. Deploy the Thundering Falls. A Violent Outburst. It's interesting, but I kind of don't want it. We're really counting on this Klothys to resolve for our mana. If we keep this, I think I just have to put it in the graveyard. Still, yeah, mana is like the draw that I want. Like a land so I can play this Klothys around days would be ideal. The opponent will swamp cycle a troll. That's cool. I hope they reanimate that. We are not lacking in Dismembers. Dothy Voidwalker. Well, that's cool too. We are still not lacking in Dismembers. All right, Force is a fine draw. I guess I'll hold up green, and we'll take care of this Voidwalker. All right, that resolved. We pass it back. Another Voidwalker. I guess I'm going to Dismember in their end step and see if they want to daze. I guess I'll do it right now. Maybe I'll let the Ponder. I guess I'll just do it right now. Here's the daze. Here's the Spirit Guide. So what we just need to do here is draw a mana source. They shuffled. That's cool. They have some sewers. They graveyard an underground sea. All right, show me potato salad. That's not potato salad. Although it is capable of bouncing something they do here, so that's cool. It looks like they're going to pass through their turn. Here's an Elvish Spirit Guide. Well, I'm going to try to summon the Mighty Klothys here. See how it goes. They let it resolve. Well, that is good for our mana situation. An Orcish Bowmaster. You can have an Orcish Bowmaster. I mean, I guess it is kind of racing us, but this does like 4 per turn, basically, with a life gain. An Entomb. I think I'm going to let this resolve and then try to win the war over their counterspell and then exile whatever they're entombing for here. The Archon of Cruelty, it looks like. Here's the Animate Dead. So I'm going to force here, and I guess I'm going to pitch the Brazen Borrower. Okay, that resolved. Cool, so we get to get the Archon of Cruelty out of here. So I like how that's worked out. Exile the Archon. So do I want to slam the Shardless Agent? You think the opponent would have fought over getting that Cruel Archon into play. And so this will either get some Rhinos down, or we'll do some Inevitable Betrayal. I guess if they're just able to like Entomb, Reanimate again next turn, it's good news for them. I see. So they had Force of Negation, so they couldn't fight on fight over the Klothys. Over the Animate Dead. That's what happened. Okay, so they've only got 1 card in hand. I guess if they reanimate the troll, okay. I would like to get that troll out of here, but we do have a bunch of Brazen Borrowers in the deck, if that happens. But if I could just get that troll exiled, I'd feel pretty good. And I think they're gonna, okay, Fatal Push, cool. All right, I like this spot now. Misty Rainforest. So we'll get the troll out of here. Play the Rainforest. Pass it back. Brainstorm, cool. Okay, so they got a Wasteland there. That's pretty okay. Like if they reanimate Dothy Voidwalker, I mean, that would add a lot to their clock. And we'd really need to draw a Brazen Borrower. But if we can just draw like a blue card here. It's not a blue card. I think if they had the reanimation effect, they'd just go for that right away. But if they hadn't wastelanded us there, this Violent Outburst would have been pretty incredible, so. Okay, can we just get in for one more activation with Klothys here? / draw blue card. And Fade Barrowgoyf. Brainstorm. Okay. So their Brainstorm's resolved. They do have an Animate Dead for their Voidwalker, finally. It's a little unfortunate. Cool. Oh, I'm so silly. I can exile a land to make the mana I need. I probably should have done that last turn. Let's do that. Of course, we draw the Inevitable Betrayal. Wow, this is actually like a really bad time. But we can force the... So they're going to crack back with a Crashing Footfalls. I'm going to get Taiga here because that is the best one for casting Endurance. Oh man, probably people were screaming at the screen about the other mode on Klothys here. Anyway, if they do play Rhinos, they do have to sacrifice their Dothy Voidwalker, and then they're no longer beating down with Dothy Voidwalker, so that's cool. If they sacrifice and I get to force it and it resolves, it's obviously pretty good. Echoing Truth. Ugh. Well, I think I have to force this. Okay. So, I mean, they don't have any cards in hand to potentially answer that with. They don't get to attack this turn. Yeah, so they don't attack. I imagine they're cracking that Voidwalker in my end step. They're cracking it right now. That's cool. That works okay for me. It means I can just exile the Voidwalker. Yeah, so they get to crash some Rhinos of their own. We'll get the Voidwalker out of here. And pass it on back. I would really love to draw like an Endurance at some point, but it's not been happening. They attack with one Rhino. Well, I don't see any reason not to double up here. So cool. We have traded. I think they should have just attacked with everything, but whatever. I will get... How many red cards are left in my deck? Yeah, basically none that matter. I'll just get another Tropical Island. And hopefully we draw that Endurance at some point. Force. Well, that is something. So I'll exile the Shardless Agent. If I attack here and they don't block... There is a problem where if they have like a removal spell for this Rhino, how bad is it? I think I'll just attack. I think this forces a trade pretty effectively. Because they can attack with everything, but then I get to attack with everything. Cool. The Rhinos are off the table. We're back to grinding them out with Klothys here. All right, they draw their card for the turn. Thing for a bit, and then they're coming in with the Bowmasters. And they're going to reanimate Brazen Borrower. And go to 3, okay? It's coming right down to it. It would be nice to draw something. Endurance would still be a great draw. So they're at 3. I guess this is only an attack for 5. We are actually winning the race here, I believe. Wasteland from the opponent. That's cool. So if I can just draw a blue card or an Endurance. We draw neither. I will exile So the Baraglyph is just a 3/4 if they play it. Start working on sorceries, I guess. So they have not wastelanded me off 5 mana, so we do have this hard cast Force of Will. They need to do something here. Well, they're going to attack me down to 2, it looks like. And I think they're going to just let me get them with a Klothys here. I will take out, I guess, a Ponder. That's not something they can play. Like a Surgical Extraction on their own Ponder does it. Okay. Well, they did not draw a Baraglyph, but Klothys kind of did what it was supposed to there, so that was cool. All right, so let's talk about how that went. Yeah, the main deck, perfect. Wouldn't change a thing. The one Inevitable Betrayal on the sideboard was just fine. Our fun of Mindbreak Trap didn't get to see any action, but the one of Klothys sure did. Yeah, I mean, we lost to Jeskai Control, which, you know, I think that's mostly a pretty okay matchup. But I could have boarded better and probably boarded out some Spirit Guides against the non-Daze deck for maybe more copies of Endurance for sure. Yeah, so I don't know if Mindbreak Trap's actually needed and if Inevitable Betrayal actually matters. And I still need to figure out the sideboarding against the blue-black Reanimator. Like, Dothy Voidwalker is effective against us, and so maybe boarding out all the Fire and Ices just isn't correct. But I think that was a pretty cool league. It was super long and grindy, an hour and a half it looks like. But that was a lot of fun. Yeah, Rhinos are, it's great that Rhinos are playable in the metagame. It's great for yours truly. And yeah, Murktide region was awesome. All right, thanks for watching, folks. All right, bye.